Hello and welcome to Breaking Bread with Rivaaj Maharaj, where nothing is off the table. For today's episode, I wanted to talk on the current events in Iran and Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to Israel. So without further ado, let's get into it. The breaking news coming out of Iran, as we all are aware by now, is that the Americans and the Israelis have launched preemptive strikes against Iran. The Iranians have now responded by firing missiles into Israel as well as at Bahrain, Kuwait, Qatar, American bases in those regions. President Donald Trump has come out urging the Iranian people to rise up against their regime. And as I had mentioned in my previous videos, I think the Americans don't want to put boots on the ground and that they will launch an air campaign and naval campaign against the Iranians and try and destabilize Iran from within using the Iranian public, but also proxies in the region. So, for example, those 7,500 ISIS fighters moved from Syria to Iraq. I think that they're going to be let loose at some point. ISKP, we know, will be let loose as well, should the need arise. The Kurds, I think, may also end up playing a role in the destabilization of the Iranian regime. So, you've got this war which has now begun in Iran. For all intents and purposes, I think Donald Trump is hoping for a decisive victory. How accurate that will be, I think only time will tell, because I think that even if the Israelis and the Americans are successful in destabilizing Iran and decapitating the Iranian Ayatollah regime, I still firmly believe that because there is nobody to fill the void, I've always said I don't think Reza Pahlavi is going to do the job. I don't think he commands that level of respect across all the peoples of Iran. So I really think that Iran is going to descend into civil war and you're going to have a balkanized Iran. Nevertheless, this brings me to the timing of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to Israel. Now, I know there's a lot of hue and cry in the media about, Prime Minister Narendra Modi having gone to Israel and being the first Indian Prime Minister to address the Knesset.
They hold firmly that Israel is their fatherland and India their motherland. We are democracies shaped by history and focus on the future. Our partnership is grounded in shared experience and shared aspirations. Our strong partnership not only serves national interests, but also contributes to global stability and prosperity. Am Israel Khai.
And I know that prior to him leaving for Iran, there were fears about his trip to Iran because his trip to Israel, because Israel, was making these belligerent posturing towards Iran, and war seemed to be imminent. But if you look at the statements coming out from Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, where he and I think it was the Israel Katz, the defense minister, have said that the planning for this operation was undertaken weeks in advance. My take on this is that I think Prime Minister Modi was aware that the Americans and the Israelis were going to launch their attacks today. I think that his visit to Iran was symbolic and significant. India has always tread a very fine line regarding Israel and the Palestinian issue. Congress governments of past left-leaning governments have always sided with the Palestinian issue. However, it has become increasingly clear of recent that a nexus is being formed between Hamas and Lashkar-e-Taiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed and the likes, and that they are being used by the Pakistani administration and the ISI to bring about a destabilization not only within the Kashmir region but also within India.
The pièce de résistance on February 5 was the presence of Hamas spokesperson Dr. Khalid Kadumi, Dr. Naji Zahir, apart from Hamas leaders Mufti Azam and Bilal Al-Salat, at the Rawalpindi rally attended by Jaish-e-Mohammed leader Masood Azhar's brother Tala Saif, launching commanders Asghar Ali Kashmiri, Masood Ilyas and top elite terror commanders. The conference titled Kashmir Solidarity and Hamas Operation Al-Aqsa Flood was designed to convey that both Kashmir and Palestine were subjects for pan-Islamic jihad.
This was evident from the manner in which the Pahalgam attacks had taken place, as well as the manner, the modus operandi. When you look at the questions that those dastardly terrorists asked the victims of Pahalgam before executing the men, asking them to recite, verses of the Quran, to drop their pants to see if they were circumcised or not. And once it was established that they were Hindu, they were effectively murdered.
यहाँ पर थी, क्या बोलते भेलपुरी खाली थी, मेरा पति साइड में था, एक इंसान है, उसने उसको गोली मार दी
यहाँ पे।
उसने बोला कि ये शायद मुस्लिम नहीं है, उसने उसको गोली मार दी।
नहीं, आप टेंशन मत लो, अब बेटा आप यहाँ पे रहो, हम साथ में। मैडम, ये जो भहीद साहब है प्रेसिडेंट, आप टेंशन मत लो,
मेरे पति का बच्चा लो,
हम बचा देगा, कोई बात नहीं। भाई तो करेंगे फोन, दब से मन युवा डिजाइन किया है। ठीक है, हम बचा देंगे ना, आप टेंशन मत लो, मैं आ रहा हूँ। मैं कहाँ पे आपका ये हस्बैंड, क्या हुआ इसको, क्या हुआ?
Please ask for help. We don't need
Okay, don't worry. You okay? You need a water, sir?
Sir, we'll manage. Just ask for help. Please,
Okay, you first you give the hands water, drop of water, take a drop of water. हम आ रहे हैं, आप टेंशन, कोई बात नहीं, हम हैं, हम आ रहे हैं, आप टेंशन मत लो मैडम, हम आ रहे हैं। नहीं खुदाया, कहाँ पे आपका बेटा, कहाँ पे है? कोई बात नहीं, हम इनके साथ हैं, ये प्रेसिडेंट है वही साहब, ये यूनियन का प्रेसिडेंट है, ये साथ में, आपको कोई टेंशन नहीं। मैडम आप कोई टेंशन मत ले, हम साथ में। अरे मैडम ये प्रेसिडेंट साथ आया है, आपको किसी चीज का डरने का नहीं, हम साथ में, आपको किसी को क्या हुआ है?
You also saw that during the Pakistan's Solidarity Kashmir Day, or whatever they want to call it, three or four of Hamas top leadership were guests of honor at that event, together with LET and Jaish-e-Mohammed cadres. So you find that there is a deepening of ties between these two, between the organizations, the jihadi organizations of Southeast Asia and the jihadi organizations from Palestine, namely Hamas. Now, I've mentioned in my previous video, Hamas have always been very excited every time India, stood together in solidarity with the Palestinians. However, whenever the Kashmir issue was flagged, Hamas was always front and center to denounce India. And I think it's about time that India made a stance on this matter and decided one way or another, it either sides with Hamas or it moves to the Israelis. But the track record with Israel or between Israel and India is something that is civilizational. It goes back millennia. But in recent history, the Soviets and the Israelis are about the only two nations on the planet that consistently stood by the Indians every time the Pakistani administration and military made incursions into India. And every time the Pakistanis being the aggressors, India's Arab allies even sided, if not militarily, if not financially, then at least in solidarity with their Pakistani brethren against India. And, I could never understand this logic, because it should always ever be you side with the truth. So when it was evident that Musharraf had basically sidestepped Nawaz Sharif and instigated the Kargil incursions, aid poured in from all these nations to assist the Pakistanis, despite the fact that the Pakistanis were the aggressor. But nevertheless, the reason I'm bringing this up is because I believe that Prime Minister Narendra Modi was forewarned of this imminent attack on Iran by Israel and the United States, and his visit to Israel and his posturing and his speech was a signal to the world moving forward that from this point onwards, India stands with Israel, they stand firmly with Israel, and they stand against terrorism of any form unequivocally.
I also carry with me the deepest condolences of the people of India for every life lost and for every family whose world was shattered in the barbaric terrorist attack by Hamas on October 7. We feel your pain. We share your grief. India stands with Israel firmly, with full conviction in this moment and beyond.
And you heard Prime Minister Modi, vociferously condemn Hamas for their attacks on the innocent Israelis on October 7th. And, I'm going to try and find the clip or a link. You should watch Moses in Israel, where Revital Moses interviews two Indian care workers that were in Israel at the time of October 7th and at the time when the massacre was taking place.
The Hamas knocking at the door, and Dalit was still online talking to me. I told they are knocking at the door. She said, Sabita, don't open. No, it is locked. Just we were continuing our speaking, we heard the shot at the door, the glasses were falling. When we heard the boot sound, I just cried out, because they are inside, they can do anything to us. They tried, I think 5-6 times they tried to open the door. We could feel the handle going down, we were pushing it up. As we were chanting the prayers, whatever we know, we were chanting. They were hitting on the door, asking to open the door and calling out Allahu Akbar. Scene outside was so horrific.
And they were in one of the kibbutzim in Israel, and how they they struggled and they fought to keep the two people that they were caring for alive and keep themselves alive, despite the fact that Hamas operatives continuously tried to get in and murder the lot of them. And it makes for an amazing listening experience, because you understand the fear and the horror of what these people experienced. Social media has done an amazing job of downplaying everything and whitewashing a lot of stuff, and and that's good. But the truth is the truth. When you listen to these women and what they went through, it is heartbreaking. So I think Prime Minister Modi's visit to Israel was symbolic, because the timing could not have been more perfect. He went there, he made a speech, and he has firmly placed India's place alongside Israel, a tried and tested partner who always stood by India in India's hour of need. Unequivocally and without doubt. That's not to sugarcoat it. Whether you're a leftist, a rightist, whatever you are in India, there were times when your survival depended on assistance and your allies abandoned you. Your Western allies, your Arab allies abandoned you. The two powers that came to your assistance were the Soviets and the Israelis. And bear in mind, Israel was fighting wars of its own and fighting for its own security, but at the same time still managed to extend a helping hand to the Indians. So I think it's only befitting that the Indians return the favor. And I think there's another takeaway from Prime Minister Modi's visit to India, and that is that the world has now, with this strike on Iran, the world has now formally divided into two camps. The Indians have always been known to straddle the fence and try and appease both sides. I think this is the first time that they've taken a hard stance and decided that they're going to go with the Israelis. So I wanted to do this video because the moment, I was up all night and just watching the news, and I then started getting all these notifications on my phone and, messages from people in the Middle East, and I then realized, that it had happened. The Israelis and the Americans had launched strikes against the Iranian regime. And immediately everything fell into place for me, because I remember when I heard Prime Minister Modi's speech, I thought, he is making such a bold statement and taking such a firm stance. Something has to be happening somewhere. Because he's effectively saying, if you read between the lines, he is saying that he stands firmly. He has picked a side. And, I'm being honest here when I say that I think that he has picked the right side. I know there's a lot of anti-Israeli hate, there's a lot of Jewish hate, there's a lot of Zionist hate, and that doesn't bother me, because the Jews have always faced persecution from time immemorial. The Hindus have gone through the same fate. We're still going through it. So I understand what they go through. And I also believe that if somebody has helped you in some way, then the first opportunity you get to be able to return the favor, you should do that. I don't believe in this anti-Semitism, this racism. I grew up in a country where I was told what I could and couldn't do simply because of the color of my skin. It's not a nice place to be in. So I understand what the Jews go through. And for that reason, I believe Prime Minister Modi's visit was significant. I am 1,000% certain that he was aware of the preemptive strikes that were going to take place. He made his trip to Israel and he affirmed his stance regarding Israel. Don't forget, Prime Minister Modi is the first Indian Prime Minister to have gone to Israel, the first Indian Prime Minister to have addressed the Knesset, and it was really within his tenure that this relationship between Israel and India has climbed to the heights it has. You know, previous BJP governments have made outreach to the to the Israelis. And I think Prime Minister Modi has just ramped that up, you know, to stratospheric levels. Again, I think that this is a partnership that both nations can really benefit from. You know, in hindsight, I can say that having looked at everything that has gone on, I now understand why Prime Minister Modi went to India and why he made that speech. Because I remember at the time he was making the speech, I was thinking, these are such strong statements and such a bold stance that he is taking. You know, and it's not out of the blue. Something is driving it, something is motivating it. Now you're going to get people coming out and saying he's using, you know, the Indians are trying to use the Jewish lobby, the Indians are trying to appease the Americans. You know, you'll always get that. I'm saying history is the greatest judge. And if you look at history and you look at the bond between Israel and India, and you look at the number of times the Israelis have stood steadfastly with the Indians, even to the extent of defying their most ardent ally, the United States. You know, when Richard Nixon was absolutely antagonistic towards the Indira Gandhi and the Indian administration and the Indian people, you know, when he sent his carrier strike group battleships to the Bay of Bengal threatening Indira Gandhi, and it's no secret, you know, listen to what Richard Nixon and Henry Kissinger had to say about Indians and how they hated them, and it almost seemed personal.
What do the Indians have? They are masters at flattery. They're masters at subtle flattery. That's how they survived 600 years. And that's all they got is flattery. They suck up. Their great skill is to suck up to people in key positions. Undoubtedly, the most unattractive women in the world are the Indian women. Undoubtedly. I've never seen one. Oh, I've seen them. Most sexless, nuts people. I mean, people say, what about the black Africans? Well, you can see something of vitality there. I mean, they have a little animal-like charm. But God, those Indians, apathetic.
Now, having defied all that, and for Golda Meir to still then send assistance to India, I think, you know, if you prepare to throw a friend like that down the drain, I think, you know, you lose all sense of respect. So once again, thank you for taking the time to spend with us. We look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Please remember to like, share and subscribe, as it helps us with the algorithm and it helps our channel to grow.